I am Patricia Salazar, an Ecuadorian lawyer for the affected communities for the pollution caused by Chevron on the Ecuadorian Amazon. On that capacity, I've been working with Stephen Donziger for several years. Stephen successfully helped the Ecuadorian affected communities to win a lawsuit against Chevron, and because of that, he's currently in prison. This successful legal battle would not have been in place but for Stephen and a handful of community leaders. That's why he had won the love and respect of thousands of people here in Ecuador. I'm grateful to work in this case and to work with Stephen because his integrity as a lawyer, his courage as a man, and his warm heart as a human being. As a colleague, I admire him and I respect him and I love him as a friend. I ask you to help Stephen to win back his freedom from the Danbury prison. He's a courageous man, but he's living under abysmal conditions. He had lost around 20 pounds and the entire prison is in lockdown. This battle is uneven. So in order to get Stephen's freedom and to force Chevron to pay the judgment, we need a higher level of resources. The higher we raise, the better chance we get to get Stephen's freedom and to clean up the environment and to get medical treatment to the affected communities. Please give what you can. Keep in mind that Stephen has around 150,000 followers on social media. So if you give $25 or even $1, it really makes a difference. Please donate what you can to the Donziger Defense Fund. Thank you very much for caring and thank you very much for your support. Muchas gracias por su ayuda y muchas gracias por su.
Hello and welcome to the Nomiki Show. It is a Friday, December 10th, Femme Friday, and you were just listening to a plea by one of Stephen Donziger, the attorney who defended indigenous people in Ecuador. He's been doing this for the last 3 decades, and he won a judgment, a major lawsuit against Chevron, one of the largest oil companies in the world. You've heard this story from us and from others. We first had Stephen on last year in the spring and have developed a very good relationship with him and his lawyers and some of his colleagues. And we've been giving you guys updates along the way. That was a lawyer that he has worked with in Ecuador making this case, talking a little bit more about the conditions that Stephen faced in the Danbury prison. Stephen has been giving these updates along the way through social media, through his lawyers, writing in emails, which it's a little complicated because it has to go through screening of the prison. He has very brief calls with his lawyers, a very brief visit with his family. But we have some news today, and it's great news, but it is not perfect news. Stephen has actually been released from prison because of the conditions. And the difference is now he is going to be serving out his sentence from home. Different from his home, his previous sentence at home. They're actually going to be, he can't drink, he has to be monitored all times. It is a prison. It is like he's actually a prisoner in his home. It's not just under house arrest anymore. When he was under house arrest, he was a little bit more mobile, able to have wine with his family and have people come in and out. This is prison, but at home. But I want to actually read an update from Stephen from just 4 days ago, excuse me. So you get a sense of what the conditions are like in the Danbury prison during COVID. They are under lockdown. I think it's really important for, Stephen, he's not just keeping us all in the loop about what's happening. He's actually using his privilege. This is important, as he has done throughout his legal career, but he's using his privilege to educate folks and his platform about what's happening to others and what life is like in prison. He's lost over 20 pounds, as you have heard, and he has barely served out half of his sentence. I'm going to read you what he said. So the Fri Donziger team has received a new message from Stephen in prison. The lockdown for COVID is also perplexing. We are jammed together 24/7 with no social distancing. Few wear masks. all share tiny cells. The guards who come in are only 50% vaccinated, even though it's against the law, by the way. So they are potential vectors for the virus, or at least its latest variant. There is no COVID testing. Nobody checks regularly for COVID symptoms. Those seeking medical care with a cough or runny nose must wait at least a week or longer to see the one full-time doctor serving 1,200 male and female prisoners. It's scary to me that nobody knows if anybody among us has COVID because there's no testing. The prison reports no COVID cases. Staff are not tested before they report to work. Worse, federal judges are citing the phantom reports of zero cases to deny, quote, compassionate release to the medically vulnerable. The judges are finding there is no longer any danger at Danbury from COVID. Given these factors, locking us in 24/7 seems untethered to any legitimate notion of medical necessity. There is tremendous camaraderie inside, lots of card games, weightlifting, reading, and discussion. Those inside help each other figure out their cases in a way most lawyers would never do. Received a letter today from a musician in Lyon, France, who composed a song in honor of my work. Another woman from Manhattan sent a beautiful poem. A law student from Tennessee wrote to say he is studying environmental law but is scared to enter the field and end up in prison. I can only write back to a few people, but please know how much I appreciate the inspiring communications. I'm saving all of the letters and postcards. So, this is very powerful that he was, of course, able to get out. He has a lot of support, legal support. There are quite a few leaders who are supporting him. You have congressional members. Many of the squad members are supporting him. You have people writing letters. There has been a lot of behind the scenes machinations to make sure that Stephen is safe, because beyond all this, he's fighting something that's much, much bigger. COVID is a concern, but there are other security concerns I'm sure he's worried about. And he is a line of defense for hundreds, if not thousands, of people in Ecuador right now who deserve justice. Folks in Ecuador, if you are not an American, if you're not a white male American who has a legal degree from Ivy Leagues, you may have been treated a little bit differently, especially if you were doing this work in a country that doesn't, normally imprison lawyers and journalists, does not kill lawyers and journalists. This is an unprecedented case. This is why this is so important that we keep talking about it. But I also want to, and this is my personal perspective, I want to share something tactically. So what Stephen has gone through is undeniably unprecedented. This is why the UN and a consortium of legal experts and lawyers around the globe have spoken out. World leaders have spoken out about this case being completely unprecedented, that it was a kabuki court, that, it's not only that the judge had conflicts of interest, but went out of her way to set up further conflicts of interest. This is not normal. He, on top of all this, to be sentenced with this type of sentence for a misdemeanor that he also didn't commit is also not normal. Unprecedented means not normal. And it creates a pathway for a potential pattern. Anytime a lawyer decides to take on a major company, today it's Chevron, tomorrow it might be Amazon, it might be Tesla, it might be Elon Musk, it might be Walt Disney, it might be one of these major monopolies. They have a lot of money, a lot of power, and in our country we have really weak campaign finance rules, and we appoint our justices in many situations. And in others, there are uncontested elections, which people don't understand, who's on the ballot. So this is a very important case that we stand for. But we have an administration. So how does this all shift? How do we make sure that Stephen is protected, that Stephen is released from his sentence, and furthermore, that Chevron actually pays their fees? Well, the buck stops the Biden administration. It stops at Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland has the ability to supersede all of these rulings so that the Justice Department does not have a new precedent, because today it might be Stephen, but tomorrow it could be, the January 6th rioters, the terrorists, because they might be using this against someone on the left right now, supposedly on the left, meaning, he's a lawyer, but he's not, taking a political stance here. But it could be against, the right wing, the far right could be going against one of Biden's folks or one of Merrick Garland's folks. So Merrick Garland, to me, this is the goal, is to push the Justice Department to do something. And this is where my personal opinion comes in. We are trying to influence the Biden administration. We are trying to influence Merrick Garland. Stephen is a lawyer. Stephen did not give up state secrets. Stephen is not a football to be played in a geopolitical game. Stephen is a human being who has a family, who has already suffered incredible consequences of his courage in supporting other people and taking on one of the largest and most powerful countries in the world. So for those of you who want to put him out there as if he's some sort of football and make him your new case to build your brand around, to call out the US empire, that is not going to get him out of prison. That is not going to get Chevron to pay their bills. There are a lot of folks who have the interests in calling out the American empire, which we know exists. But if we want Stephen to be free, we need to get Merrick Garland, and this is coming from his words, his mouth. Merrick Garland needs to move. He needs to do something in the Justice Department. But putting him into some sort of geopolitical game as a football so that, calling out the American empire, that is not going to move Joe Biden's administration, and it is not going to move Merrick Garland. So if we want this man who has been so courageous, we want to actually change the precedent. We want to hold people accountable. We have to understand who our audience is and how to move them. This is not Assange. That is an entirely different situation. Stephen is an attorney. And if this can happen to Stephen, it can happen to those environmental lawyers, those law students who want to get involved in environmental law but are afraid to for their lives, as that one law student said, because this is now going to be the precedent. So again, Merrick Garland, you can do something. You can make sure that we have some semblance of the law left in this country. We have a broken legal system, as we know very well. But if lawyers can't be safe, then who's next?